Oh, Captain, my Captain. This is the Club Fantasy DFS Showdown video. We've got a few of these already up on the website. Guess what? We're adding a few more. This is Austin. Which direction? Here we go. Austin, my compass. Austin Amandolia at Austin_FFL. Myself, Joshua Hudson at the One Hudsonian. As you can see, just as it says, I am the captain now. But we're talking about my Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for Monday night on Super Wildcard Weekend. You will also find more of these videos on the Club Fantasy FFL YouTube page. Be sure to check out our preview on the Browns versus Texans, the Dolphins versus Chiefs, the Rams versus Lions, the Packers versus the Cowboys, and the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. Austin, this is near and dear to my heart. Please tread lightly because I'm already in a bad mood because we're talking about my Eagles. But first, let's talk about how the people watching this can play these showdown slates against us.
Yes, you can play with us on DraftKings. We have a showdown slate for every day. We have the Miami-Kansas City game on Saturday, the Detroit-Los Angeles game on Sunday, and this game, the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday. So every night you have some showdown in your life. There's also some of the mini slates that just popped in there. It just automatically happened. I don't know what to do about that. So if you want to play a little extra, get a couple 2-game slate, a 3-game slate, sure, go for it.
Love it. All right, we've got some fun little segments set up for these videos. First is going to be Captain Chalk. As the name suggests, this is the trendy chalk captain that everyone is likely to pick because they are just that damn good. And Austin, while Mr. A.J. Brown has had a phenomenal season, he's not been so hot of late. Talk to me about A.J. Brown.
He has not been so hot as of late, but he's still A.J. Brown. Like, he still had 6 consecutive games with 150 receiving yards and got a ton of targets during that time. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass defense is almost as bad as the Philadelphia Eagles pass defense. So you know that there are going to be opportunities for A.J. Brown to feast in this game. And Tampa Bay in particular gives it up to number 1 receivers. So I love this spot for A.J. Brown. I think you could make a case for Mike Evans being the captain chalk as well. I would lean towards A.J. Brown because Philadelphia, they have a little bit more stature compared to Tampa Bay, even though they just lost to the Giants. I still think people are going to believe in the Eagles more than the Buccaneers, especially given that the Buccaneers just got 9 points against the Carolina Panthers of all teams.
For what it's worth, A.J. Brown, during the Week 3 meeting at Tampa, where this game will be played, 14 targets, 9 catches, 131 yards, no touchdowns. Mike Evans did catch a touchdown in that first meeting. But speaking of Tampa Bay wide receivers, the next topic here is the Mutineer. This is the Contrarian Captain choice that offers a little bit of variety and upside in some of these larger tournaments. Talk to us about Chris Godwin.
Yeah, so sometimes when showdown slates happen, it's just very clear to me who is the best contrarian captain. Sometimes it's harder to tell, but this one, it feels incredibly clear to me that Chris Godwin is the best contrarian captain choice because everybody's going to want to play A.J. Brown. If they don't, they're going to say Mike Evans, he could score 2 touchdowns and go for 100 yards. And if they don't do that, they might say, oh, Jalen Hurts, he could get pushed into the end zone 2 times. And so I think Chris Godwin is going to get overlooked because he's had a down season, but he still isn't an elite receiver. He still has the opportunity to get a ton of targets. The point of this pick is the fact that it is contrarian. So you are taking some risk that it doesn't pop and that the chalk hits, that A.J. Brown hits, that Mike Evans hits. But I think you need to have some exposure to Chris Godwin as your captain to have some variance and to lean into the fact that he could be the one who pops off this week.
Look, and Godwin has 45 targets over his past 5 games. And back in week 15 against Green Bay, another terrible pass defense, he ended up with 10 catches, 155 yards. Yeah, the Eagles slot receiver or slot defense, not great, Bob. So I do like this pick from a contrarian perspective. The next topic here, first mate, every captain needs a reliable crew. These are the standouts that maximize your lineup. And Austin, you've got a lot of other selections here in this topic.
Yeah, the fun thing about this game is there's a lot of elite players. So Mike Evans, Jalen Hurts, duh. Dallas Goedert, duh. But I'll give you more than just that. So Mike Evans, first off, like I already mentioned, he is the down the field threat and he's a touchdown threat. He's scored a ton of touchdowns. He's shown that he is a good end zone target for Baker Mayfield. And so even if he doesn't have the type of day where it's like 8 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, if he does a very typical Mike Evans performance, which could be 2 catches for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns, which he has actually done before, that's not enough to be the captain in your lineup, but it is great for the rest of your lineup. So I'm loving Mike Evans in whatever lineup I have.
Real quick, I want to throw this out when it comes to the Eagles' pass defense. They have seen more pass attempts than any secondary in the NFL. They have allowed the second most passing yards amongst any secondary in the NFL, and they have allowed the second most passing touchdowns of any secondary in the NFL. Austin, continue.
There's going to be a lot of Buccaneers receivers talked about in this episode. You could just count on that. But also another first mate, Jalen Hurts. He can always end up at the 1 yard line and get tush pushed into the end zone. It's as simple as that. He's got the rushing upside.
It's DeAndre Swift's greatest trick, getting tackled at the 1 yard line.
That's incredible. Yeah, rip. Fun fact, DeAndre Swift not mentioned in this show. So there you go. Yeah, Jalen Hurts, he's got the rushing touchdown upside. And I think this is if there was ever a chance to get right in a playoff game, it would be against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary because they have also struggled. So Jalen Hurts, he has the pass game upside. He has the chance to score a rushing touchdown. I like him in this spot. I could see him as a captain. I just don't love putting quarterbacks in the captain spot because it's so much easier for receivers and running backs to hit that 30, 40 point mark that you need. And it's harder just for quarterbacks to achieve that. But another player I think is a solid choice in your lineup is Dallas Goedert. We all know Dallas Goedert. He's one of the best tight ends in the league. He can get a ton of targets. If Devontae Smith is still banged up, he could continue to see a lot of usage in this offense. The thing that I want to flag at this point of the show is you could reasonably play all 5 of the guys that we've talked about so far in your lineup because they're all that good. There's going to be some hard salary decisions because there are so many elite players in this particular slate that the pricing is going to get tough. So you do have to stick around for our next category.
Good. Great segue. Thanks, Austin. Next category is the deck scrubbers. These are your cheaper punt play options that can make a lineup based on one play and or limited opportunity. I love this first one because you did mention the Bucs wide receivers, but you also have one in here that I'm actually very surprised. Actually, really not surprised because in reality, he's the best at his position in the NFL. But let's talk about Trey Palmer.
Yeah, so I love Trey Palmer. First off, shout out to Nebraska Cornhuskers for bringing out Trey Palmer. I, believe it or not, watch a lot of Nebraska Cornhuskers and remember watching this kid last year. I was like, this guy's a good receiver. Why is he not getting unlocked in this offense? And it was Scott Frost's fault. Scott Frost's fault. You know, if you watch the Nebraska Cornhuskers, you know why. I'm just throwing that out there. But Trey Palmer, he's been getting a decent amount of volume in this offense, and I just love the way he's getting used. He's a good route runner. He is fast. He can get down the field. And again, this Philadelphia Eagles secondary is bad against receivers. So I could foresee a route where you put Chris Godwin in your captain spot. You bring it back with Mike Evans, Trey Palmer. Why not put Baker Mayfield in there and then have two Philadelphia Eagles players on the other side? That could be a viable strategy to me. So I love Trey Palmer. He's just a great player. On the Eagles side, I have 2 players. I first off have Quez Watkins, which I'm guessing is one of the people that is shocking you. Here's the thing. He led the team in targets last week. And the only reason I have Quez Watkins in here is because of the chance that Devontae Smith does not play. If Devontae Smith does not play in this game, I think it's viable to have Quez Watkins in your lineup. He led the team in targets last week, and you might say, Austin, you dummy, Jalen Hurts quit playing at halftime. What do you mean? So Quez Watkins could have gotten all of those targets when Marcus Mariota was quarterback. But I went and I looked at the game log because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't running into this trap. And Quez Watkins got 4 targets from Jalen Hurts before Jalen Hurts exited. So it is reasonable to believe that he still could have hit that 8 or 9 targets with Jalen Hurts playing all 4 quarters. So I do actually like him.
When we jettisoned Nelson Aguilar, we realized that we needed to replace him with somebody else who had bricks for hands. That is Quez Watkins. That's all I'm going to say.
But, if you're having to pass the ball 40 times because you can't run the ball and you have a bad pass defense, you could brick a couple of balls and it'll still work out, But there's also Jake Elliott, who
that's the guy that I do like from this list. Because our offense can't do shit these days.
Exactly. In my notes, I said, I threw a kicker in there. And part of it's because the salary makes it tough. You might need to just throw a kicker in there because the thing is, some of these cheaper players, the way that these two offenses function, they don't spread the ball around as much as, say, a Cincinnati Bengals offense does or a Green Bay Packers offense does. And so the punt plays are tough to come by. So I do like having Jake Elliott in there as one of the punt play options. Side note, this is also why I think it's important to play Chris Godwin in your captain spot and get Contrarian at the captain spot, because it's going to be harder to get Contrarian elsewhere in your lineup. But Jake Elliott,
very sound strategy.
Jake Elliott, like you said, Josh, if the Eagles get stuffed a couple of times, he could get some 40-yard field goals, get you a nice solid 10 to 15 points.
Love that. All right, before we get to the last category, Austin, remind everybody where and how they can play against us in these showdown lineups.
Yes, if you think I'm a dummy, you can come play against me and take my money in the DraftKings League. The link is in the description. We have contest on Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night for the Kansas City Dolphins game, the Los Angeles Rams playing the Detroit Lions, and for this game that we're talking about right now. So all my strategies. You know that I'm probably going to play Chris Godwin as my captain in this contest. So there you go. A free gift, a free leg up on one of your opponents in this matchup.
All right, the final category, because every hero needs a villain and every ship meets its Kraken. These are the lineup traps that ultimately sink the ship. A couple weeks ago, this guy had 2 touchdowns. Austin, why are we fading Julio Jones?
I hate that I'm doing this right now as a Falcons fan. It is not it's just like against the rules, but it's not going to happen again. That was such a random game for him to be the one to score 2 touchdowns. Here's the thing though. He is being treated like a tight end in this offense at this point. And I will say the Buccaneers are bad against tight ends. I still don't want to play Julio Jones though. He's just not getting the volume there, and I'm not counting on him to score 2 touchdowns. That just feels too gross for me. So I'm gonna avoid that. Also, I don't know. I got so burned on Julio Jones down the stretch where I'm like, his hamstring could pop at any minute and he'd just be on the sideline.
Well, the good news is he's not running near as much wind sprints with the Eagles.
That's true. He's just posting up like he probably should have done down the stretch in Atlanta and extended his career there, but whatever. I'm fine. Atlanta Falcons. Another lineup trap. We're just gonna move on from that. Is Chase Edmonds. I don't think anybody's gonna want to do this, so I don't think I have to talk about it that much. But I was looking through and I was like, somebody could try and get cute with Chase Edmonds, and I don't think it's a good move. I think that even though Philadelphia has been struggling down the stretch, their run defense is still decent. And also Rachaad White just gets most of the carry and most of the volume in this offense anyways. I just don't foresee a pathway for any other running back to get there in a DFS setting.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you're right. You mentioned it before. There's not really a ton of room for contrarian picks, like really true punt plays, at least when filling out the bottom portion of your lineup. Especially on the Eagles side, because this offense funnels through A.J. Brown, usually Devonta Smith if he's healthy, Dallas Goedert, and then to an extent, DeAndre Swift. Keep in mind, and I know we haven't really talked about DeAndre Swift, the Eagles ran for over 200 yards in week 3 against Tampa. Tampa's already come out and said there's no way that's happening again. Maybe they can make it happen again. Maybe they can't. I don't know. What I do know is that that's all you're going to get out of DeAndre Swift because he's not catching any passes. So unless he's racking up yards and finds the end zone in some way, shape, or form, that's where the value lies with DeAndre Swift. So now you know why he hasn't really been talked about this episode. But with that, this concludes this edition of Oh Captain, My Captain, the DFS Showdown videos here from Club Fantasy. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Please hit like and subscribe. It goes a long way towards helping us reach our goals. That is Austin Amandolia at Austin_FFL. I am Joshua Hudson at the1 Hudsonian. You can follow Club Fantasy across the socials at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL, clubfantasyffl.com. Be sure to check out the rest of the DFS Showdown videos here on our YouTube page. And we will see you next week for the divisional round videos. Adios.